Hey, if you want to learn how to write a quick model-driven app in less than 10 or 15 minutes, keep watching. Hi, I'm Roger Brogan, and this is Azure Power Dev, where you learn how to write applications with little or no code. And today, we're going to learn how to write a model-driven Power App. Now, stay tuned to the very end because we're going to see the new View Designer, and I'm also going to throw in some previews for some future videos. Let's get to it.
Okay, today we are going to build a quick model-driven app. We can build different kinds of apps. If we go over here to create, we can do a Canvas app, a model-driven app, or Portal app. But we're going to start with a model-driven app. And the app that we're going to build is a simple expense tracker. And the beauty of model-driven apps is that we simply start with the data. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to our tables section. This used to be named entities, but it's now tables. Let me go ahead and start by adding a table here. And if we're going to track some expenses, let's call this our expense table. Well, let's spell expense correctly. There we go. And then the plural name would be expenses. I'm going to go ahead and create this table here. And then we can see we don't have really a whole lot of information in here. The very first column that we have is name. So if we take a look at name, um, name of the expense, that's going to be okay. It's going to be a text field. That's going to be fine. It certainly is required. So we can leave that as the default there. And let's go ahead and add some other things. If we're going to be tracking expenses, I'm sure we're going to need an amount of the expense. And that's not going to be text. We can choose a little better type here. Specifically, if it's an amount of money, we can pick currency. And we're going to make that one required as well. And if we're going to add some additional columns here, we've got an amount. We might want to have a little more of a description here, a more detailed description. And we'll leave the description optional here. So we'll call that done. And we've got a little issue up here where it's asking us to try saving. Okay. All right, so our table is saved, and we see that we got a whole bunch of other fields. These are some standard fields that are available just because we created this table. A lot of these are very useful, so we have a bunch of auditing stuff for created on and created by, in addition to the ones that we created. So let's go ahead and continue. We ended up with a name and an amount and for the currency, and we've got a description. And what else would be interesting here? Let's add a column here for attaching a receipt. And let's make this one an image. And we can make it the primary image, so this will show up in lists. And we'll go ahead and click done for that. And we can continue to build out our model here. Let's decide whether this expense was approved. So let's go to a yes, no column there. And the default value will be no. It's going to start off not approved. Let's make it required. And let's put another column in here to decide whether or not it's been paid. And that's also going to start no, and that's going to be required. So we've got a name, a detailed description, an image, an amount, whether or not it's been paid or approved. So I think that's a pretty good start. We can always come back here and iterate on the design and make some other changes later. But this is going to be good enough for this simple demonstration here. And we'll go ahead and let it save the table. Okay, so the table is saved. So now I'm going to go over here to app. A model first app wants you to build the model or the data model first. So we've gone ahead and do that. So let's choose new app. We're going to choose model driven. And that's going to take us over to our create new app dialog. And we'll call this our expense tracker. And we'll call it the employee expense tracker. And we'll take the rest of the defaults. And now we come over to the app designer for model-driven apps. And we can see right here, we have the very top sitemap that tells us that the configuration is missing. And that's true. So let's go ahead and click the little pencil button here. And we'll go over to the sitemap designer. Now, the sitemap designer is designed for the visual layout of our application. And we have areas, groups, and sub areas. And a good idea to understand what those actually mean is to just grab one and try and drag it. Now, obviously you can't drag an area here, but you can drag one up top. So the areas essentially become tabs across the top. And let's see what groups do. Groups obviously look like our columns here, so we could add a new group if we want to. And then if we're looking at sub areas, obviously sub areas can go into our different groups and below the other sub areas. Okay, so that's how the designer works. You essentially got tabs across the top, columns across each tab, and then sub areas are your sections inside of those. Now, we don't need all of this, so I'm going to delete these, and I'm going to delete the additional group here. And we're going to also delete our different sub areas here. Now for the sub area, we can see that it is telling us we need something over here. And what we need is to choose, first off, we can choose a type of what we're going to put in this sub area. So we want an entity in here. And then we're going to choose our expense entity that we just created. And then I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then we can also, save and close. And now we've gotten a few other things. We've gotten our sitemap where it seems to be perfectly happy with this. And now we have in the entity view, we have our expense entity. And along with that, we now have forms, views, charts, and dashboards. So let's take a look at what we get with our forms. Our forms, we just have our informational form about the entity, and we have our quick view form for that. Those were built for us automatically. A view gives us our public views, and we've got some find views in here, which have different filters associated with them, or some lookup views, and those are all built for that. Then we don't have any charts because we haven't built any of those, and we don't have any dashboards yet. But let's go ahead and close this and take a look at our expense tracker, because we can't actually play it yet because we haven't finished publishing it. So let's go ahead and edit again and just go ahead and run a quick validation on here. Now it gives us a warning. It tells us that it's not referencing a specific form or view. So we can get rid of that by going over here to our forms and taking off all and saying that we want this one to start off with just an informational form. And we'll go ahead and save that. Now we validate it. Seems fine. So let's go ahead and publish. And now that we've published, let's go ahead and click the play button and take it for a test drive. So as we can see, we don't have any actual expenses because we don't have any data yet. So let's go ahead and click new. And now we have an opportunity to see what our create new form is here, which let's just say this was a dinner out for the expense. But you might note that the rest of our fields are missing. So where are the rest of our fields? If we go ahead and try and save this, we can see that it's created here, but we don't have the rest of our fields. So this is not what we were after. So let's go back to the designer and go ahead and fix this. And one of the things that we can do to fix this is just go over to our form view, and let's go ahead and edit our form for this entity. When we do this, we come into our um, form editor here, and this is where we can get into a little bit more detail. From the sitemap, we were just high level, and now we can get into the actual details of this. And you might note that we've just got a couple of bits of information in the general tab here. We've just got name and owner, and we probably want some more additional form fields in here. So let's add the rest of the stuff that we're curious about. Let's go ahead and add in our amount. And I would like to see whether or not this was approved. And I would like to see when it was created on. I would like to see our currency. We'll put in our description. Let's see whether or not it was paid. Let's have our image receipt in here. And I think that's a good start for right now. So let's go ahead and save and publish this. And we can close out of this. We can save and close this one. And I believe I forgot to publish the main app. So let's go ahead and see if this is going to work without actually being published, since we did publish the form. And in fact, we do have it. Okay, so let's go ahead and create another one. We'll say this was lunch on Monday. And let's say it was $15. Created on is going to be a system field filled out. So lunch with clients. And it hasn't been paid, and we don't have a receipt yet. Also, it says that you're going to have to create this record first, and then we can do it. So if we go ahead and save, then we have an option to upload an image. And if I had an image of receipt handy, we could certainly do that. All right, let's go back to our list now. And now that we see we have lunch Monday and dinner out, which we can go in and fill out the rest of the information here. And if we go back to our list, so these are our active expenses. We could show inactive expenses. These are all active, okay? And this has the basics of an expense tracker. So let's go ahead and see if we can make a few bits of it a little bit more interesting. If we go over to the views here and we were looking at the active expenses, let's go ahead and modify this one here. There's a better way to customize our views. Okay, let's try the new experience to customize the view here. And we just have name and created on. So yeah, let's add some additional things here. Let's add on the amount. And let's add in a description there. And let's add in whether or not it was paid and whether or not it was approved. We can throw in the currency. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. So let's go ahead and save this one and publish it. All right. Let's go ahead and save and close this. And let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. And there we have it. We've got our active expenses, which we can see whether or not they were paid or approved, the currency, the amount, and the description, the name and the description. So doesn't do a whole lot, but we didn't write any code. So if we wanted a quick application with some nice forms, we can go in here and edit these. We can add additional ones, and we have a nice little view. And this is really done pretty quickly here. So there are lots more things we can do with this. Just for maybe a sneak preview here of some of the other things. If we go over here to our tables, We go down to our expense table that we just created. We can see that there are relationships that were automatically created. We have an option here for business rules, which we'll dive into business rules in a future video. We have additional views that we can go in here and edit. We have additional forms we can play around with. We can create dashboards, charts. We can set up some additional keys, and we get a nice little preview of our data that's available. This wraps up this video, but if you want to continue to learn more, we're going to be going in more detail on all of these different tabs in future videos. So go ahead and keep watching.